Hi everyone! Today I want to talk to you about a topic that I have addressed a few times on my channel, but I want to share a slightly different perspective on it, and that is how the MBTI type and the Enneagram type interact with each other, and basically what are some of the ways in which they can influence the expression of the other one. So all about that in the next few minutes. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's dive in. So, I want to talk to you about how certain combinations between an MBTI type and an Enneagram type can manifest differently and influence the way we perceive the other person. One of the most important ways in which I think the Enneagram type can influence the expression and also the perception of the MBTI type is through the social extroversion versus introversion level. We know that the letter E, extrovert, or I, introvert, in MBTI, in the 4-letter coding, refers more to cognitive extroversion and cognitive introversion rather than social extroversion or introversion. So this means that if someone is an extrovert or an introvert in MBTI, in Jungian psychology, this doesn't necessarily mean that they are extremely socially extroverted, so outgoing and talkative and loving to be in the middle of people, versus socially introverted, so very shy, timid, not enjoying to be around people, and so on and so forth. We know very much that someone can be an extrovert in MBTI and still be a little bit shy, still need time for themselves, still need to be a bit more quiet or be around quiet people and environments. And someone can also be an introvert in MBTI, but socially to be comfortable being around people, to be comfortable talking and interacting with others, to not be so easily drained. However, with a specific pairing with an Enneagram type, this can be a bit changed or influenced even more than the cognitive dimension. So if someone is an introvert in MBTI, has a dominant introverted cognitive function, but they have an Enneagram type 2, 3, 8, for example, as a dominant Enneagram type, they can appear to be a bit more socially extroverted than we would expect. So, for example, INFJ and ISFJ Enneagram 2, or an INTJ Enneagram 8, or an ISTP Enneagram 8, or something along those lines. Some of them are less common, but anyway, an introvert in MBTI with a 2, a 3, an 8, a 7 also, because that's also quite socially extroverted as an Enneagram type, they can appear to be more socially extroverted than we would expect from someone who's supposed to be introverted. But again, that's also because introversion in MBTI doesn't mean that you hate being around people and you're always in your house and you're always withdrawn. You can be like that, but you can also be different. And this, let's say, spectrum can be amplified by specific Enneagram types. Another possibility is that you are an extrovert in MBTI, but you have a more introverted dominant Enneagram type, like type 1, type 4, type 5, type 9. They tend to be a bit more introverted, especially 4, 5, and 9, which are the withdrawn Enneagram types. So let's say that you are an ENFP, but you're an Enneagram 4 or an Enneagram 9. You will appear to be a bit more introverted than other ENFPs who maybe are 7s or 2s or 3s. If you are an ESFJ Enneagram 9, again, you might appear to be more socially introverted than a more typical, stereotypical ESFJ who's maybe an Enneagram 2 or an Enneagram 3. So the social extroversion introversion is one dimension in which we can see the Enneagram type slightly changing the expression of the behavior of a certain MBTI type. A second way in which we can look at these influences is something related to how the feeling/thinking stereotypical attitudes manifest. So let's say that someone is a feeler in MBTI, and then in the Enneagram they don't have a very stereotypical type that is often associated with being a feeler. So for example, I would say that Enneagram 2 is very stereotypically associated with being a feeler. But Enneagram 5 isn't. because in general, Enneagram 5 is much, much more common among thinking types. But if we have an MBTI who's a feeler, maybe not a dominant feeler, but someone with a parent feeling function, like the IFJs or the EFPs, and they're an Enneagram 5, or they have a strong Enneagram 5 in their tri-type, then they can appear to be a bit more thinker-like and can be mistyped by themselves or by other people as being a thinker type. I would say particularly INFJ, ISFJ can be in this situation. Their introverted thinking, the child function, will become even more apparent to others and to themselves. They might be more often stuck in an NITI or SITI loop, overlooking the FE function, and can be perceived that way. Again, they can be a feeler type, but again have Enneagram 1 or Enneagram 3 as a dominant type or as a strong type in their tri-type, as a wing, and that can also make them look a bit more thinker-like than other feeler types, especially if they're a feeler who's an Enneagram 2 or an Enneagram 9 or an Enneagram 4, which are more commonly stereotypically associated with feeling. Okay? Same for thinkers. If they're thinkers but they have an Enneagram type that is not that stereotypical for thinkers, like 5 for example, maybe they are a thinking type but they're an Enneagram 9, or they're an Enneagram 2, or they're an Enneagram 6, or they're an Enneagram 4. Again, they can appear to other people that they are a bit more feeler-like, and they can be mistyped as feelers. An ENTP or an ESTP with one of these Enneagram types, they can appear to have a stronger extroverted feeling child function as compared to other ENTPs and ESTPs, and can consider themselves to be feelers, or other people can perceive them to be feelers. And lastly, I'm going to talk about the way the Enneagram type can influence the expression and perception of the traits stereotypically associated with judging and perceiving, with the J or the P letter from the end of the MBTI type. Okay, so again, a very stereotypical, very superficial way to look at things is to say that, oh, J types prefer structure more than P types, and P types prefer less structure. We all know by studying typology in more depth that that's not always the case. However, this is even more complicated when you put a bit of a different Enneagram combination in the mix, when you have some pairings that are not quite as common or stereotypical. So I see this specifically for P types that are Enneagram 6, ISTP, ISFP especially, who are Enneagram 6, can appear to be more J-like in their expression and can sometimes mistype themselves either as ISFJ or ISTJ or INFJ, INTJ, because the Enneagram 6 makes them borrow some of those stereotypical traits associated with being a J or having a strong NI, SI, TE, blah, 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 and hence can cause a slightly different expression of who they are. Because maybe for an ISTP, it's more common to be an Enneagram 5 or an Enneagram 9. And there you see the more stereotypical ISTP traits. But if the ISTP is a 6, which is a bit less common, they might appear to be more J-like and mistype as ISTJ or INTJ. For ISFP, again, maybe it's more common for them to be a 4 or a 9, and 6 is a bit less common. But if they are a 6, they can appear to be a bit more J-like and appear a bit like an ISFJ or an INFJ, or mistypes themselves to be that. Same if we do it in a reverse fashion. So let's say we have a J-type in MBTI that has a bit less stereotypical J-ish vibe Enneagram. So maybe they're a 9, maybe they're a 4, and they're a J-type. They can appear to be a bit more P-like. An INFJ, that's an Enneagram 4 or 9, might sometimes consider themselves to be an INFP. An INTJ, that is an Enneagram 9, might sometimes wonder, maybe I'm an INTP. Because again, the 9 tends to give this more easygoing vibe to a type, which people tend to stereotypically associate with being a P. Okay, so what I wanted to point out in this video is that yes, sometimes we have these more stereotypical combinations between the MBTI and the Enneagram type, and it is easier to type ourselves or to type other people. We see some more stereotypical traits more easily. But sometimes it's not the case. Sometimes we see certain pairings that are only moderately common, medium common, or they're quite uncommon, they're quite rare. And when that happens, if there's a bit of a clash, we might start wondering, is there something wrong? Is my MBTI type wrong? Is my Enneagram type wrong? What is going on? And sometimes this is because there's some sort of conflict that gets created between some of your traits, some of your preferences, some of your cognitive function, natural approaches, and the Enneagram tendencies, or the Enneagram fears, motivations, and desires. And this internal conflict can either be challenging because you might struggle to figure out your type, or you might feel like you cannot make decisions very easily because there are conflicting needs and thoughts. But it can also help you in your development. I feel like people with these combinations can be a bit more balanced because they get influences from two different sides. So it's kind of like a coin that has two different facets, and depending on how you look at it, you can either see the costs or the benefits of that. I hope this video was useful and interesting to you. As always, thank you very much for being with me. Thank you very much for watching this video. And I just want to remind you guys about two resources if you're interested. I offer self-awareness coaching sessions as an International Coaching Federation professional coach. So if you're interested to find out more, there's a link in the description and you can access my website and find a little bit more about what I do and how I can help you. And secondly, I also have a newsletter where I send articles about once or twice per month on topics related to typology, psychology, personal development, and sometimes some of my philosophical thoughts. So again, if you're interested in that, there's a link in the description below. Thank you very much for being with me, and see you next time with another video on typology.